think West Ham are on the cusp of making a really, really decent team. There are only two things that are needed. Two more players to make us a really exceptional team. When I say exceptional, let me just quantify that. I don't mean us beating Manchester City. I don't mean us playing better football than Arsenal or whoever it may be. I mean in terms of, I've spoken about it before, sort of David Moyes' vision. David Moyes doesn't, well, if cast your mind back a few years ago, 3 teams going for La Liga. David Moyes. If David Moyes was any one of those teams, it would be Diego Simeone. We'd be Atletico Madrid. That would be how he would see us playing. I think we're only a couple of players away from being a truly annoying and frustrating team. But I think it's really important that we do get those 2 players. We got the rumours surrounding Mohamed Kudus. And, of course, there's rumours suggesting that we are going to sign a striker. Now, I'm just hoping they're not either or. I think both is pivotal. It's absolutely crucial. Because with that, it gives us real options. Now, I'm working on the assumption that you buy Kudus and then maybe he can play on the left wing where needed. He can play centrally. He can play a number of positions. I think if you do a similar thing with a forward who has a little bit of flexibility as well, then you have genuine competition for places in pretty much every position. And if somebody is not fit and firing, then somebody else gets put in. I think it also brings, as I've mentioned on numerous occasions, some much needed pace into the team. But that team has got character and it's got personality. And I've got to say, I'm somewhat surprised by that. It has to be said, because I think it's quite a disadvantage to lose captains in consecutive seasons. And that's exactly what's happened at West Ham. However, during that Chelsea game, there were a couple of things that I was really impressed with. I think, first of all, let's talk about Jackson, who completely lost the plot at the end. He was pushing people around. Anytime there was a stop in play, West Ham would sort of gather around him a little bit. There were little nudges, there were little shoulders here or there. I'm not talking about during play, but when the referee had stopped play, there'd be a player there was one point where Ogbonna just walked past him, Jackson, and he didn't do much. It was just enough just to nudge him, and he got agitated immediately. He was in a high state of agitation. I also thought West Ham managed to really wind his name, Disasi, the centre half, who managed to really wind him up. By the end of it, if I was Pochettino, I would have been looking at 2 or 3 of their players and thinking, maybe I need to get them off before they sort of lose their heads. Now, yes, I am aware of the contradiction of what I'm saying, bearing in mind, I think Agurd pretty much lost his head. But I know it's easy to say this, but believe you me, I said it at the time. I think out of any team going down to 10 men, I think West Ham are sort of the best suited to it, because we sort of do that anyway. Our shape and our tactics, our strategy didn't change. I think if you're an attacking team and you suddenly go down to 10 men, then and you have to sit back and you have to defend, your whole ethos, the whole manner of what you're doing is a complete contrast to what you have been doing for the rest of the game. Well, West Ham, it's just more of the same. It's just, you know what? Yeah, okay, fine. 9 men behind the ball. Well, we're sort of doing that anyway. And sometimes, Mikel Antonio comes back and he helps out, and he did defend really well in that Chelsea game. Don't get me wrong. But you understand what I'm saying. There was no big threat, I felt, for us. No bigger. And being down an extra man really should be an advantage. But it was really the way we sort of behaved once that happened. There was a number of players who sort of came into their own. Zuma really stood up. And by the end of it, he had really agitated Jackson to the point where that's why Ogbonna was able to annoy him so easily. There was a couple of occasions just before the ball was about to come over into the box. I sort of noticed Ogbonna just pushing a couple of people, just create a little bit of space there. I thought the exchange between Lucas Paqueta and Caicedo was fascinating down that left-hand side, by the way. It was at the point where we were trying to waste a bit of time, but also get up the pitch to give the defence a rest. And my word, didn't we do it well indeed. Emerson was sort of travelling up the pitch really well, and he was trying to combine with Paqueta and doing so extremely well to waste time. There was a little exchange with Caicedo, and Paqueta was sort of up for it. Paqueta was talking to him. I'd love to know what was said. I guess, hey, we'll never know. I guess they were both speaking Portuguese to each other or whatever the case may be. I'd love to know what was said, but certainly Paqueta was winding him up. It was sledging, if you want. In cricket terms, it was sledging. It was trolling. He was roasting him. Let's put it that way. And there came a point where Caicedo sort of almost went to front up, and then he very much retreated into himself because Paqueta said, "Okay, well, I'm happy to continue and do a little bit more of this." It was shortly after that it was Caicedo who conceded a penalty. I thought he'd become flustered, and I thought there were at least 3 of the Chelsea players who'd become flustered. And there was just a lot of mind games. I just thought we were mentally very, very tough and mentally very resilient, and I thought that was a really good thing to have on our side. When you look at James Ward-Prowse's overall performance, neat and tidy passing, I don't think he dominated midfield per se, but in the defining moments he was there, he really made a hell of a difference. And I think that's really, really important. But if you listen to him interviewed afterwards, if you listen to any of the stuff he said before, again, it's another player of really, really sound character. And I don't need to talk to you about Soufal and sort of his winning mentality. We do seem to have quite a chiselled, grisly bunch of players, really. And I guess in many respects, whilst I don't think he is the right man to preside over the transformation of the FA Youth Cup winners into the first team, and that concerns me a little bit. I don't think David Moyes is the right man for the job. You can sort of understand why he wants seasoned campaigners. I'm really pleased we didn't get Harry Maguire, by the way, but you could almost see why David Moyes might have wanted him in that sense. And then I look at the way the team are going to play. I thought Ward-Prowse has definitely added something to the team. And when I said about that grisly nature to the team, that thing that they appear to have, which is obviously a will to win, personality, leadership, character, I think what we saw from the brief glimpse of what we saw of Edson Alvarez, he was exactly the same. He seemed to have that as well. He seemed, again, to be a winner, to be somebody who was instantly determined, somebody who wasn't going to shirk the challenge. And I thought, wow, okay, this is really good, and this is really good to see. It's not the prettiest football in the world, it really isn't. But if we're going to become really hard to beat, and I think we genuinely are, because I think before, but David Moyes has had times where he's set the stall out to be hard to beat, but actually we weren't hard to beat. Yeah, we defended, we sat deep, but we weren't hard to beat, and we offered precious little threat on the counter-attack. I often say that what's really important is when the team sheet goes into the opposition manager an hour before kickoff, you want them to read it and think, okay, we've got to make provision for this. You want the opposition manager to have to adjust his tactics in reaction to what you've done. You need to give him something to bother about and something to worry about. And that's why I think the additional 2 players are going to be very, very important. I think midfield is absolutely sorted. I think if he signs Lingard as well, you've got another number in there. But I think if you've 2 more players and we become a real threat. When Antonio's in beast mode, absolutely amazing. But the options we've got when he's not are not really like for like. And it don't necessarily have to be like for like. They just have to be a bloody big threat. And I think it's hard to make the case at the moment. Look, Mubamo, I wanted to get a chance at points this season, is a relative unknown. And Danny Ings, I'm sorry, just isn't a threat, particularly not playing that style that we're going to play. You want someone else comparable. You want someone else going to strike fear into the opposition. Antonio does that. Antonio, when he's on that sort of form that he played against Chelsea, strikes fear into the opposition. We need another one. It doesn't have to be a like-for-like match, but just somebody else that gives that opposition something athletic, be it strength, be it pace, ideally both, but something to think about. Antonio doesn't know what he's going to do. How can the opposition know what he's going to do? And I think that other guy in midfield, be it ideally someone that can play on both wings through the middle, just to do something different, carry that ball with pace, somebody ideally direct, would be magnificent. I don't know what West Ham are going to do. I don't know if they can make 2 of these signings. I sort of hope they can, because I think if they do manage it, I think we'll do really, really well this season. As I say, do I think we can trouble the very best, the tip-top? I'm not suggesting we got top 4. But I do think we'd be a very, very good team. And I think we'd find ourselves going through the season winning a lot of games. Not only winning a lot of games, but maybe going into games previously we thought we'd get nothing from, with a real chance of winning them. It's really interesting. We started this transfer window really, really slowly. It appears that we're finishing it really strongly. I haven't even mentioned Mavropanos in this video. I think he's the same. I mean, from what I've seen, very, very impressive. Look, I'll talk about him in a separate video anyway. But yeah, I mean, 2 more signings. I think it looks absolutely decent.